She married a monster, but they never saw her coming. The bustling city skyline of Metropolitan Heights, New York, sliced through the gray morning like a jagged wave. It was there, in a tiny apartment on the 18th floor of a downtown building, that Eleanor Vance gazed out at the concrete jungle. It wasn't a good day for goodbyes, but life rarely consults the calendar of our tragedies. Her phone rang for the 5th time that morning. It was him again, Julian Thorne, a name that had sounded like music 2 years ago when she still cleaned his penthouse in the exclusive Upper East Side, but now stuck in her throat like a thorn. "I want you out before the day is over," he said when she answered. His voice was metallic, devoid of emotion. "I've sent a driver. He's waiting downstairs. He'll take you wherever you want to go." "Julian, I know you're scared, but we need to talk about this." Eleanor's voice was surprisingly firm for someone who had cried all night. "I'm pregnant. They're your children." An icy silence stretched across the line before his voice returned, now sharp as broken glass. "Don't try that game with me, Eleanor. I'm not an idiot. You know very well I spend most of my time traveling. How can I be sure those children are mine?" His words struck Eleanor like a slap. She took a deep breath, her hand instinctively going to her still flat stomach. "I've never been with anyone else, and you know that." "I know? What I know is that you got what you wanted. 2 years living in an apartment I paid for without having to clean bathrooms. It was too good, wasn't it? Now, you want to secure the rest of your life." Eleanor closed her eyes as a sharp pain pierced her chest. How could he so easily forget the whispered confidences in the dim light, the promises exchanged on pillows, the "I love yous" murmured between kisses? "I never wanted your money, Julian. They all say that." His laugh was dry, humorless. "You have until the end of the day. The driver will take you wherever you want, on one condition: far away from me." The call ended. Eleanor stared at the phone, as if it could offer some answer to the collapse of her world. The city noise continued outside, indifferent. Horns, sirens, the constant bustle of millions of lives moving on while hers crumbled. The doorbell rang. It was the driver, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, who avoided looking directly at her. He waited in the hallway while Eleanor gathered the few things she owned: some clothes, a notebook with poems, a small wooden box with photographs, and the positive pregnancy test that had changed everything. She went downstairs with him to the parking lot. A black luxury sedan, tinted windows. New York City sped by on the other side of the glass. The imposing Fifth Avenue, Times Square with its dazzling billboards, the gray melancholy of that winter afternoon that seemed tailor-made for her broken heart. "Where to, ma'am?" the driver asked, breaking the silence. "Where?" The question echoed in Eleanor's mind like a cry in an abyss. She had no family in New York. Her parents had died in an accident when she was in high school, and the aunt who raised her had passed away 2 years prior. Her few friends were from Julian's circle: socialites, business moguls, models, people who surely would already be deleting her number. "You can drop me at Grand Central Station." That was all she managed to say. The driver nodded. When they arrived, he tried to hand her an envelope. "Mr. Thorne asked me to give you this." Eleanor looked at the white envelope, imagining how much her dignity was worth in Julian Thorne's estimation. "Give it back to him. Tell him I'm not for sale." The driver seemed constrained, but pocketed the envelope. As Eleanor got out of the car, with her small suitcase, he murmured something that sounded like, "Good luck, mjau," but it could have just been the wind. Grand Central was a human ant colony. People coming and going, farewell hugs, arrival smiles. Eleanor walked aimlessly among the platforms, feeling invisible amidst the chaos. She didn't have enough money to go very far. She had no plan. She sat on a cold stone bench and watched the crowd in front of her. Families, lovers, lonely people like her, people with destinations, with purpose. For the first time since she received the news of her pregnancy, Eleanor allowed herself to cry in public, silent tears streaming down her face as New York pulsed, indifferent to her pain. That's when she felt a light hand on her shoulder. She looked up, meeting the gentle face of an elderly woman, gray hair pulled back in a bun, wearing what appeared to be a simple religious habit. "Is everything all right, my dear?" The voice was soft, with a slight accent Eleanor couldn't identify. "Yes, She tried to smile, but her lips trembled. The woman sat beside her, unhurried, as if she had all the time in the world. "You know, sometimes the world seems like such a big and lonely place, doesn't it? Especially when we're carrying a weight that no one else can see." Eleanor looked at her, surprised. How could this stranger seem to understand so well what was happening in her heart? "My name is Sister Agnes. I'm returning to the St. Jude's Haven, downtown." She smiled. "If you have nowhere to go, perhaps you can join us for a warm meal." I'm pregnant." The words escaped before Eleanor could hold them back. "And alone." Sister Agnes showed no judgment, merely squeezed Eleanor's hand lightly. "Then there are 2 lives needing shelter. All the more reason to come with me." That cold winter afternoon in the city, as the sky closed in, announcing rain, Eleanor Vance allowed herself to be guided by a stranger who offered not just shelter, but something she would desperately need in the coming years: hope. St. Jude's Haven, an austere brick building nestled among modern structures in a quiet downtown neighborhood, became Eleanor's unlikely refuge. It wasn't luxurious like the apartment in the Metropolitan Tower, much less like Julian's penthouse in the Upper East Side. But there was a serenity within those thick walls that blocked the constant roar of the city. "You can stay in the back room next to the library," Sister Agnes explained, guiding her through cold floored hallways. "It's small, but it has a window that overlooks the garden. In the morning, it's the first place the sun touches." The room was, in fact, tiny. A single bed, a nightstand, a simple wardrobe, and a wooden chair by the window. But it was clean, and, as promised, the window framed a small internal garden where cherry blossom trees were beginning to bloom. "Meals are served in the kitchen. Coffee at 6, lunch at noon, dinner at 6. Ha!" The nun smiled. "We don't have rigid rules for visitors, but we appreciate collaboration in maintaining the space. Everyone contributes as they can." During the first few weeks, Eleanor spoke little. She spent hours sitting on the small stone bench in the garden, watching the birds that came to feed on the seeds the sisters scattered every morning. At night, lying in the narrow bed, she felt the first movements of the life growing inside her. It wasn't tears that visited her during those hours, but a strange sense of determination. One Sunday afternoon, when she had been at the Haven for 2 months, Eleanor found a white-haired man with a gentle smile in the library. He was organizing books, separating them by categories. "You must be Eleanor." He extended his hand. "I'm Father Michael. I come here every Thursday and Sunday for Mass, and sometimes to put this library in order. The sisters are wonderful, but organization isn't exactly their strong suit." Eleanor smiled, her first genuine smile in months. "Can I help? I like books." Father Michael looked at her for a few moments, as if evaluating something far beyond her appearance. "Of course. Can you start by separating those? Over there, by subject. Then tell me which ones caught your attention." They worked in silence for almost an hour. Eleanor felt strangely comfortable in the presence of that man who, from time to time, murmured something to himself as he examined one title or another. It was he who broke the silence. "Sister Agnes told me a little about you. She said you are intelligent and observant." He closed the book he was examining. She also mentioned that you're expecting twins. Eleanor instinctively placed her hand on her belly, now visibly protruding under her simple dress. Yes, the clinic doctor confirmed it last week. And what do you plan to do after they're born? The question took her by surprise. She hadn't thought much beyond tomorrow since arriving at the Haven. I don't know. Maybe look for a job as a domestic worker again. It's what I know how to do. Father Michael frowned. Really? And all these philosophy and literature books you separated so carefully? And the notes? What did I see you doing the other day while you were in the garden? Eleanor felt her face flush. They're just thoughts. I've always liked to read and write, but I never had a chance to study beyond high school. I needed to work. The priest nodded thoughtfully. You know, Eleanor, there are scholarships available. I know some people at NYU. If you're interested, I can make some calls. She stared at him, incredulous. University? But I'm going to have 2 babies. How could I study? With difficulty, certainly. He smiled. But wouldn't you be the first mother to go to university? And here at the Haven, I'm sure the sisters would help with the girls while you're in classes. They love babies, you know. It gives them a chance to spoil someone without sinning by favoritism. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. The idea of returning to study, of having a profession, a career, things she had abandoned when she fell in love with Julian and accepted the life he offered, now re-emerged as a real possibility. When day broke, she found Sister Agnes in the kitchen preparing bread. I want to accept Father Michael's offer, she said without preamble. I want to study. The nun smiled, as if she had been expecting those words. What would you like to study? Eleanor didn't hesitate. Law. I want to help people who, like me, don't know their rights and end up being manipulated by those in power. 3 months later, with her belly already huge, sheltering her daughters, Eleanor began attending night classes at NYU. During the day, she worked as an administrative assistant in a small downtown company, recommended by one of Father Michael's contacts. The salary was modest, but enough for her to start building a small savings for the girls' future. The days were exhaustive. She woke up at 5 in the morning, took 2 subways to work, went straight to the university, and returned almost at midnight, often being the last person to get off the bus that dropped her 3 blocks from the Haven. When Emma and Lily were born, on a rainy September dawn, the routine became even more challenging. The twins were small but healthy, with a blonde fuzz that left no out about who the father was. They have his eyes, Sister Dolores commented, as she helped Eleanor bathe the little ones. 3 days after giving birth, that blue as clear as a piece of sky, Eleanor observed her daughters, so similar to Julian in coloring, but with something undeniably hers in the shape of their faces, in the curve of their lips. Yes, she replied, feeling a strange mix of pain and pride. I hope they inherited only the best in him. In the following months, Eleanor developed an almost superhuman routine. The sisters took turns caring for the girls while she worked and studied. In the intervals between classes, she expressed milk that was stored in the Haven's small refrigerator. On weekends, she made up for lost time with her daughters, singing to them, reading stories, memorizing every small development. It was during this period that she began writing articles for the university newspaper, analyzing cases of discrimination and violations of labor rights. Her first article, about domestic workers living in slavery-like conditions in mansions in New York, caught the attention of professors and colleagues. In her second year of university, she got an internship at a small law firm specializing in social causes. The pay was even less than her previous job, but the experience was worth the sacrifice. Every day she faced the chaos of the city's crowded subways, often studying standing up, balancing books and notebooks as the transport swayed on the rusty tracks. On a particularly difficult afternoon, when she had just received the news that the twins had a fever at the Haven, Eleanor found herself on the crowded subway, silent tears streaming down her face as she tried to push her way out at Grand Central Station. That's when she felt someone grab her arm. "Are you all right?" It was a middle-aged woman with curly gray hair, colorful rimmed glasses, and a well-tailored suit that hinted at a high professional position. "Yes, I need to get home. My daughters are sick." The woman nodded, understanding. "Come on, I'm in the car. I can give you a ride." In normal circumstances, Eleanor would never accept a ride from a stranger, but there was something in that woman's expression that inspired confidence. "I'm Victoria Reed," she introduced herself as they walked to the parking lot. "A lawyer. I saw you the other day at the courthouse carrying a stack of files. Intern. Yes, at Mendez and Associates." Eleanor hesitated. "I'm Eleanor Vance. I'm in my 3rd year of law at NYU." Victoria smiled, opening the door of a silver Volvo. "NYU? Excellent university. Where do you live?" "At St. Jude's Haven, downtown." The lawyer raised her eyebrows, surprised, but asked no questions. During the ride, they talked about legal cases, common professors, the routine of the courts. When they arrived at the Haven, Victoria handed her a card. "If you need help, or if you're looking for a better place to do your internship, call me. We're always in need of sharp minds at our firm." Eleanor looked at the card, impressed. Victoria Reed was a founding partner of one of the most respected law firms, specializing in human rights and labor causes in New York City. "Thank you." That was all she managed to say before rushing inside, anxious to see her daughters. That night, as she rocked Emma and Lily, now fever-free thanks to the sisters' care, Eleanor contemplated Victoria's card. It was as if a door had opened, not just for a professional opportunity, but for a life she barely dared to dream of. The road would be long and arduous, but for the first time since she was expelled by Julian, Eleanor felt there was a horizon beyond daily survival. There was a future that she herself was building, brick by brick, page by page, night after night of study. Unlike what she had experienced before, this future did not depend on anyone's promises or generosity, other than her own. Victoria Reed's firm occupied 3 floors of a modernist building on Park Avenue, the financial heart of New York City. On Eleanor's first day as an intern, the receptionist, an elegant woman with platinum hair, looked her up and down with an expression that mixed curiosity and doubt. Eleanor didn't blame her. Her simple dress, bought at a clearance sale, and her worn shoes contrasted with the polished marble and contemporary artwork that decorated the space. "Victoria is waiting for you on the 15th floor, room 1502, the receptionist informed her, handing her a badge. "The elevator is over there to the right." Upon entering Victoria's office, Eleanor was greeted with a warm smile. "Welcome, Eleanor. I hope you're ready to work hard. I don't take it easy on anyone, much less someone with potential." The new internship paid 3 times more than the previous one, which allowed Eleanor to rent a small 2-bedroom apartment in the West Village. It wasn't a fancy place. The building, without an elevator, showed clear signs of wear, and the noise from the nearby highway invaded the windows during peak hours. But it was hers, the first home she could call her own since leaving Julian's house. The twins, now almost 3 years old, adapted quickly. Sister Agnes, who had become a kind of grandmother to the girls, helped decorate their room with donated furniture and colorful handmade curtains. It was also she who found a community daycare near the apartment, where the girls could stay during the day. "We're going to miss you at the Haven," the nun said on moving night. "But this is the right path. You built this, Eleanor, with your own effort." The following months were of intense learning. Victoria didn't exaggerate when she said Eleanor would work hard. Eleanor spent entire days analyzing cases, preparing reports, attending hearings. The exhaustion was constant, but there was a deep satisfaction in every small legal victory, in every client who left the firm with a little more hope than they had entered with. It was during this period that Eleanor worked on her first major case, a class action lawsuit representing 47 domestic workers who had been dismissed without labor rights by wealthy families in the Hamptons and Greenwich. "I want you to lead the preparation of this case," Victoria said, surprising her. "You understand these women better than any of us." Eleanor accepted the challenge. For weeks, she interviewed each of the women. She listened to their stories, documented abuse, unpaid overtime, harassment, humiliations. Each statement echoed fragments of her own experience, and although she never mentioned her past, she felt a visceral connection with those women. The case gained media visibility. The New York Times published an extensive report, and other media outlets followed suit. In one of the preliminary hearings, the courtroom was packed with journalists and law students. "Don't let the exposure affect you," Victoria advised. "Focus on what matters: justice for these women." The legal battle lasted almost a year. There were attempts at intimidation, insufficient settlement offers, procedural maneuvers to delay the trial. But Eleanor and Victoria's team persevered. And when the verdict finally came, favorable on all counts, the victory resonated far beyond that courtroom. "It's not just financial compensation," Eleanor explained to the clients, many of whom cried with emotion. "It's recognition. You are workers with dignity, with rights. No one can treat you as invisible." On the night of the celebration, after a dinner at the firm with the legal team and representatives of the domestic workers, Victoria called Eleanor into her office. "I have 2 gifts for you," she said, handing her an envelope. "First, this is for you and your daughters, a small portion of the case's fees, which you more than deserved." Eleanor opened the envelope, finding a check for an amount she had never imagined seeing in her name. "And the second gift," Victoria continued, handing her a folder, "is this. I just registered it. You will be the first lawyer to join me as a partner when you graduate in a few months. Reed and Vance Law. What do you think?" Eleanor couldn't hold back the tears. It wasn't just the check or the partnership offer. It was the recognition of her journey, her worth, her ability to rebuild her life after being discarded as something worthless. "I don't know what to say, Victoria." "Say yes, and then tell me that story you never shared, about a man who clearly underestimated who he was dealing with." That night, for the first time, Eleanor told everything to someone. About Julian, about how she met him, about the promises, the pregnancy, the expulsion. Victoria listened without interrupting, just nodding occasionally. "Do you know who Julian Thorne is?" Eleanor asked at the end. "Yes, the golden boy of the financial market, the one who's always in business magazines, about to marry Charlotte Davies' daughter." Victoria narrowed her eyes. "He doesn't know about the girls?" "No, and I prefer it to stay that way. I don't want anything from him." Victoria respected her decision, but that conversation planted a seed that would quietly grow over the next few years. After graduating with top honors and the Outstanding Student Award from the law school, Eleanor officially became a partner in the now renowned Reed and Vance firm. Her specialization in labor rights and social justice quickly transformed her into a reference in the legal field. The twins, now 6 years old, attended a good private school thanks to their mother's growing income. They were intelligent, curious girls, with Eleanor's same determined gaze, although their physical features, especially their clear blue eyes and blonde hair, were a constant reminder of who their father was. One Sunday morning, as they walked through Central Park, Emma, always the more direct of the two, asked the question Eleanor knew would one day come. "Mom, why don't we have a dad like other kids?" Eleanor sat down on a bench, calling the girls close to her. "You do have a dad, Emma. He just isn't present in our lives." "Doesn't he like us?" Lily asked, already teary-eyed. "That's not it, my love." Eleanor chose her words carefully. "He doesn't know about you. It was a choice I made a long time ago when you were still in my belly. Because what?" Emma insisted. Eleanor took a deep breath. How to explain the complexity of that story to 6-year-olds? "Sometimes, adults make mistakes. Your dad made choices that hurt me a lot, and I decided that we needed to go our own way, just the three of us." "Is he a bad person?" Lily asked. "No, my love. He's a complicated person. Maybe one day, when you're older, you can meet him." "Yes, we want to." The girls seemed satisfied with the answer, at least temporarily, but Eleanor knew that conversation was just the beginning of a topic that would resurface many times. What she didn't imagine was that the reunion with Julian would come much sooner than she planned, and in circumstances that would change the course of all their lives. The envelope arrived on a Wednesday afternoon, delivered by a messenger at the firm. Eleanor immediately recognized the golden logo of the American Institute of Business Leadership, one of the country's most prestigious institutions, known for bringing together the crème de la crème of national business. "An invitation?" Victoria asked, who had just entered her office. Eleanor opened the envelope, pulling out a card printed on textured paper. "They're inviting me to be the keynote speaker at the Transformative Women event next week." She frowned. "It's strange. I've never been invited to anything corporate before." Victoria took the invitation, examining it carefully. "It's an important event. It'll be full of CEOs, investors, high-ranking people." She smiled. "I think we should celebrate. You're being recognized beyond legal circles." But Eleanor couldn't share her friend's enthusiasm. There was something about that invitation that unsettled her. "Can you check who the sponsors and organizers of this event are? I want to know exactly where I'm stepping." 2 days later, Victoria entered her office with a serious expression. "You were right to be suspicious," she said, handing her a folder. "Guess who the main sponsor of the event is? Thorne Investments. And what's more, on the same night as your panel, the Entrepreneur of the Year award will be presented. The favorite to receive it is Julian." Eleanor finished, feeling a chill run down her spine. "This can't be a coincidence. Do you think he found out about you? About the girls?" Eleanor shook her head. "I don't know. But one thing is for sure, it wasn't by chance that they invited me." During the following days, Eleanor debated internally. She could decline the invitation, avoid confrontation, keep her life and her daughter's lives protected from Julian's influence. But there was also another possibility: to use that platform to talk about issues that truly mattered. About justice, about the invisibility of vulnerable women, about the impunity of the powerful. One night, after putting the girls to bed, Eleanor called Father Michael, now almost 80 years old, but still as lucid and wise as the day she met him. "What does your heart tell you?" he asked, after hearing about her dilemma. "That I must go, not for revenge or confrontation, but because I earned the right to be there, because I have something valuable to say." "Then you already have your answer," the father replied, with the serenity of one who sees beyond immediate circumstances. "Just remember, he who seeks revenge ends up digging 2 graves, one for the enemy and one for himself." The next morning, Eleanor confirmed her attendance at the event. During the following week, she meticulously prepared her speech. She wouldn't mention Julian directly. She wouldn't expose her daughters. She wouldn't turn that moment into a spectacle of personal revelations. She would talk about what really mattered, the need for a fairer economic and legal system that didn't discard people like worthless objects. On the night of the event, the Grand Metropolitan Ballroom on Park Avenue glittered with lights and glamour. Limousines and luxury cars paraded at the entrance, dropping off CEOs, politicians, and celebrities. Eleanor arrived in a taxi, wearing an elegant navy blue suit, a gift from Victoria, who accompanied her for moral support. "Are you ready?" her friend and partner asked as they entered the shimmering lobby. "I am," Eleanor replied, surprised by her own calm. The event hall was imposing, with enormous crystal chandeliers and impeccably arranged tables. On the giant screens scattered throughout the room, the Thorne Investments logo alternated with images of the finalists for the night's main award. Julian's face appeared frequently, always with that controlled smile Eleanor knew so well. The same one he displayed at corporate dinners, the same one he maintained while whispering promises he never intended to keep. "Dr. Vance, what an honor to have you." A middle-aged man, introducing himself as the Institute's director, approached effusively. "Your talk is scheduled for 8:30 p.m., before the main award. You'll have about 30 minutes. Eleanor nodded, allowing herself to be guided to the table reserved for her near the stage. From where she was, she could see practically everyone present, including the table where Julian was sitting, next to an elegant woman she recognized as Olivia Davies, his fiancée, heiress of one of the country's largest industrial groups. He didn't notice her immediately. He was busy, laughing at something one of his table companions had said, exhibiting the same unwavering confidence as always. Physically, he had barely changed. Perhaps a few discreet lines around his eyes, a slightly different haircut. But he was the same man who had expelled her 8 years earlier. At precisely 8:30 p.m., the Master of Ceremonies took the stage. And now, we have the honor of welcoming our keynote speaker, Dr. Eleanor Vance, one of the brightest lawyers of the new generation. A specialist in labor rights and social causes, Dr. Vance became nationally known for her work in emblematic cases, such as the class action lawsuit of the Hamptons domestic workers and the defiance of textile industry workers in slavery-like conditions. Please welcome her with a warm round of applause. The room applauded politely. Eleanor stood up, walked to the stage with firm steps, and took her place at the microphone. It was at that moment that her eyes met Julian's. For an instant, he merely observed her with distant curiosity, like someone trying to place a vaguely familiar face. Then, recognition hit him like lightning. Eleanor saw the exact moment the color drained from his face, when his eyes widened with comprehension. He made a move to stand up, but his fiancée grabbed his arm, confused by his reaction. Eleanor began her talk with a clear and firm voice. "Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here, sharing some reflections on justice, work, and dignity in a country of such brutal contrasts as ours." For 30 minutes, she spoke eloquently on the topics she mastered, illustrating each point with real cases she had defended. She spoke about women who lost jobs when they became pregnant, about domestic workers treated as property, about the fragility of a system that protected the powerful and punished the vulnerable. At no point did she look directly at Julian, although she could feel his eyes fixed on her, as if trying to reconcile the confident woman on stage with the frightened young woman he had dismissed years ago. To conclude, Eleanor said, approaching the end of her speech, "I would like to share a personal reflection. 8 years ago, I was one of those invisible women. I worked as a domestic worker. I dreamed of a better future. I believed in the promises of a world that was not made for people like me. When I became pregnant, I was discarded like something worthless. I slept on park benches, went hungry, almost lost hope." The room was in absolute silence. Some of those present shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Others looked down, avoiding confrontation with that raw reality. But I found help where I least expected it, in a haven, with sisters who welcomed me without judgment, with a priest who encouraged me to study, with professors who believed in my abilities, and mainly with my daughters, who are my strength every day. Eleanor paused. Then she continued, her voice softer, but no less powerful. My twins, Emma and Lily, are the best gift life gave me. They are proof that sometimes we need to lose everything to discover what we are truly capable of. At that moment, to everyone's surprise, including her own, the side doors of the hall opened. Sister Agnes entered, leading by the hand 2 8-year-old girls, identical, in simple blue dresses, and blonde hair tied in braids. The twins had insisted on attending their mother's talk, and the nun, after consulting Victoria, had decided to make a surprise. Everyone's eyes in the room turned to the newcomers, who walked shyly to sit next to Victoria. Julian, paralyzed, looked from the girls to Eleanor, the comprehension painfully visible on his face. He gestured to stand up again. "Thank you for your attention," Eleanor concluded, her voice slightly trembling from the surprise. "And may we build a fairer country, where no one needs to choose between dignity and survival." The audience erupted in applause. Many stood up, touched by the combination of professional competence and personal story. Eleanor went down from the stage and went directly to where her daughters were, hugging them tightly. "You were great, Mom," Emma exclaimed proudly. "Everyone was listening to you so intently," Lily commented, looking around, fascinated by the lights and the elegance of the setting. That's when Eleanor felt a presence behind her. She turned slowly, knowing exactly who she would find. Julian was standing a few steps away, paler than she had ever seen him. His eyes darted from Eleanor to the girls and back again, as if trying to absorb the reality unfolding before him. "Eleanor," he began, his voice hoarse. "I didn't know. I didn't imagine." "Who is he, Mom?" Emma asked, observing the stranger with curiosity. The entire hall seemed to have fallen silent, everyone attentive to the drama unfolding. In front of them, Olivia Davies had also approached, confused and alarmed by her fiancé's behavior. "Julian, what's going on? Do you know this woman?" Eleanor looked at Victoria, who nodded discreetly. Then she knelt down to be at her daughter's height. "Emma, Lily, this is Julian Thorne." She took a deep breath. "He is your dad." The girls looked at the tall, well-dressed man in front of them, immediately identifying the traits they shared. The same blue eyes, the same hair color, the shape of their noses. Olivia gasped, taking a step back. "What? Julian, what does this mean?" But Julian seemed not to hear her. He was absorbed in the 2 small versions of himself who faced him with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. "My daughters," he murmured. "You are my daughters." 3 days after the event, Eleanor was in her office reviewing documents for a new case when her secretary announced, "Dr. Vance, Mr. Julian Thorne is here. He says he needs to speak with you urgently." She wasn't surprised. She had been expecting this visit since the awards night, when she quickly left the hotel with the girls, avoiding the inevitable confrontation. "He can come in, Deborah." Julian looked different from the confident man she had seen at the event. There were deep, dark circles under his eyes, his impeccable suit contrasting with his dejected expression, as if he hadn't slept properly in days. "Thank you for seeing me," he said, remaining standing even after Eleanor gestured to the chair in front of her. "What can I do for you, Julian? I need to know about them, about my daughters." "Now they're your daughters?" The question came out more bitterly than she intended. "Eleanor, please." He finally sat down, leaning forward. "I know I have no right whatsoever. I know what I did is unforgivable, but I need to understand. Why did you never tell me? Why did you never ask for anything?" She watched him for a few moments, evaluating the sincerity in his eyes. "You accused me of lying about the pregnancy, remember? You said I was trying to pull a stunt. When a person shows who they really are, we should believe them." Julian looked down, visibly embarrassed. "I was an arrogant idiot. I had just taken over my father's company. I was scared of the responsibilities, of the expectations. I used you as an escape, and then I discarded you." He took a deep breath. "I'm not trying to justify myself. There is no justification. I just want you to understand that the man from 8 years ago isn't who I am today." "And who are you today, Julian? Olivia Davies' fiancé? The entrepreneur of the year? The philanthropist who appears on magazine covers? I don't even know who I am anymore." The answer came with surprising honesty. "Since I saw you on that stage, since I saw our daughters, I feel as if my whole life has been an elaborate farce." Eleanor crossed her arms, maintaining the emotional distance she had fought so hard to build. "What exactly do you want?" "To meet them, if you allow me, if they want to." He looked up. "I know I have no right to ask this. I know you raised them alone, that you built an admirable life from nothing, while I continued my privileged existence." Eleanor didn't respond immediately. For years, she had imagined this moment. Julian discovering about the daughters, begging for forgiveness, offering money to buy back lost time. But reality was more complex than her fantasies. "It's not just my decision," she finally said. "Emma and Lily are 8 years old. They are intelligent and sensitive. If they want to meet you, I won't stop them. But it will be on my terms, on their time." "It's more than I deserve," he replied, genuine relief in his voice. And Olivia, how did she react to all this? Julian's expression darkened. "The engagement is off. She couldn't deal with the fact that I was hiding something so serious." Eleanor nodded, showing no surprise or satisfaction. "I'm sorry for that." "Don't be," he shook his head. "It was more a marriage of convenience than love. Business alliances. You know how it works." A heavy silence settled between them. There was so much to be said, so many unanswered questions, so much unresolved pain. "I have a proposal," he finally said. "It's not money. I know you wouldn't accept. And frankly, it would be insulting to offer it. It's about something more significant." Eleanor raised her eyebrows, curious. "I'm revamping the human resources policy of all Thorne Group companies. I want to implement support programs for single mothers, extended paternity leave, on-site childcare, university scholarships for low-income employees." He paused before continuing. "I would like you to lead that project as an external consultant, without direct ties to me or the company. Your firm would receive a formal contract, market rates. You would be the most qualified person, both professionally and by personal experience." Eleanor didn't hide her surprise. "Why?" "Because it's the right thing to do, and because maybe, in some small way, it can be a way to start repairing the harm I caused. Not to you, I know that's impossible, but to other women in the same situation." And the proposal was unexpected, and Eleanor had to admit, it was smart. It wasn't a check to appease his conscience, but an opportunity to create significant structural changes. "I'll think about it," she replied, "and I'll talk to the girls about meeting you." When Julian left, Victoria immediately entered the office, barely containing her curiosity. "So, what did he want?" Eleanor told her about the conversation, about his request to meet the twins, about the professional proposal. "Are you going to accept?" Victoria asked. "Which part? Letting him meet the girls or working with him?" "Both." Eleanor looked out the window of her office, observing the gray New York skyline, the same city that had almost destroyed her and then welcomed her in her reconstruction. I think so. Not for him, but for Emma and Lily. They have the right to know their father, even if he doesn't deserve to know them. She paused. And as for the job, it could help many women who go through what I went through. It would be wrong to refuse it out of pride. That night, Eleanor sat with her daughters in the small living room of their apartment, now decorated with photos of them at different ages, framed diplomas, and small treasures that marked their journey. The girl's first drawing, her award for best student in law school, a stone from the Haven Garden. "Do you remember the man we met at the awards?" she asked, as the three shared a simple snack. The girls nodded attentively. "He would like to get to know you better, to spend some time with you. What do you think about that?" Emma, always the most direct, frowned. "Why? Why didn't he ever come before? Why does he only want to meet us now?" "Because he didn't know about you," Eleanor replied, staying true to her promise never to lie to her daughters. "It was a choice I made not to tell him. At the time, I thought it would be better that way. And now?" Lily, the more sensitive one, catching the emotional subtleties of the situation, asked, "Now I think you're old enough to decide if you want to meet him. But I want you to know, no matter what you choose, nothing changes between the three of us." The twins exchanged glances, having one of those silent conversations that only twin siblings can have. "Can we think about it for a bit?" Lily asked. "Of course, my loves. Take all the time you need." 2 weeks later, on a sunny Sunday, Eleanor took the girls to Central Park for the first meeting with Julian. They chose a public, neutral spot where the girls would feel safe and comfortable. He was already there when they arrived, sitting on a bench near the lake, without his usual suit, wearing jeans and a simple shirt. He seemed nervous, almost vulnerable. "Hello," Eleanor said, approaching with the twins. "Emma, Lily, you remember Mr. Thorne?" "You can call me Julian," he said, not knowing exactly how to behave. "I brought something for you." He extended 2 small packages wrapped in colorful paper. The girls looked at Eleanor, who nodded discreetly, allowing them to accept. Inside each box was a delicate silver necklace with a crescent moon charm. "They're pretty," Lily said, always polite. "I like mine," Emma admitted, more reluctant to show enthusiasm. "They were my grandmother's," he explained. "She used to say the moon is always there, even when we can't see it, just like the people we love." The first meeting was brief and awkward. Julian tried to ask questions about school, about what they liked to do, about their dreams. The answers were monosyllabic at first, but gradually the girls began to open up. Before saying goodbye, Emma, the most direct, asked, "Are you going to be our dad now? Like, for real?" Julian looked at Eleanor, unsure how to respond. "I would really like to be present in your lives, if you allow me," he finally said. "But I know that takes time. I understand if you need to go slowly." As the months passed, the meetings became more frequent. Julian met Father Michael and Sister Agnes, essential figures in the girls' lives. He spoke at length with Victoria, who was initially extremely protective of Eleanor and the twins. Gradually, he gained a place in his daughters' lives, not as a substitute for the incredible mother they had, but as a complementary presence. The project to restructure the Thorne Group's labor policies progressed under Eleanor's consultancy. She refused to participate in events or photos for publicity, insisting that the focus should be on the policies, not on her or her personal history with Julian. "I don't want this to become a redemption spectacle for your public image," she said firmly. "If we're going to do it, let's do it for the right reason." And Julian, to her surprise, agreed. They worked together professionally, maintaining the necessary distance, while simultaneously building a family arrangement that allowed the girls to have their father's presence without compromising the established dynamic with their mother. One autumn afternoon, Almost a year after the reunion at the event, Eleanor received an unexpected phone call. It was a proposal to lead the legal department of a large international human rights organization based in London. "It's the opportunity of a lifetime," Victoria said when Eleanor told her. "You have to accept." "And the girls? And the firm? And—" She hesitated. "And Julian?" "The girls are starting to build a relationship with him." Victoria looked at her seriously. "You've built your entire life thinking first of the girls and then of yourself. Maybe it's time to consider that what's best for them might also be what's best for you." That night, Eleanor talked to her daughters about the possibility of moving to London. To her surprise, they reacted with enthusiasm to the idea of a new adventure, although Lily expressed concern. "What about Dad? Are we going to leave him here alone?" The word "dad," which the girls had only recently begun to use, still sounded strange to Eleanor. "We can talk to him about it, see what he thinks." The next day, Eleanor called Julian, asking to meet him at the cafe near her office. When she told him about the proposal, she saw the same expression as 8 years ago when she announced her pregnancy. But this time, instead of rejection, there was understanding mixed with sadness. "That's an incredible opportunity," he said. "You deserve it. The girls deserve to see the world, to have every opportunity." "They're worried about you," Eleanor admitted, "about the idea of leaving you." Julian smiled, a genuine smile he rarely displayed in public. "That means a lot to me, more than I can express." He paused. "I can make frequent visits, and during school holidays, perhaps they can come spend time with me here." "You'd support our move?" "Eleanor, you've given me a gift I don't deserve, the chance to know our daughters. I won't be the one to stand in the way of your future." He hesitated, then added, "Besides, the Thorn Group's London office urgently needs a review of its labor policies. It would be a convenient coincidence to have our legal consultant nearby, wouldn't it?" Eleanor couldn't help but smile. It was so Julian to find a business solution to a personal matter. 3 months later, on a sunny spring morning, a taxi stopped in front of the small building in the West Village, where Eleanor and the girls had built their first true home. The suitcases were ready. The London apartment, already furnished, awaited them. To Eleanor's surprise, it wasn't just Victoria and the sisters who came to say goodbye. A small group formed on the sidewalk. Father Michael, now in a wheelchair, but with eyes as lively as ever, her colleagues from the firm, some neighbors who had become friends, and Julian, maintaining a respectful distance, letting the others have priority in their farewells. When it was finally his turn, he approached Eleanor as the girls settled into the taxi. "Thank you," he said simply. "For what?" "For not allowing me to be just the worst version of myself." He looked at the girls in the taxi, who waved animatedly. "You could have hated me forever. You would have had every right. But you chose a more difficult path." "It wasn't for you," Eleanor replied honestly. "It was for them. And for me. Carrying hate is too heavy a burden." Julian nodded, understanding. "You three taught me more about courage and dignity than I learned in my whole life in circles of power." Eleanor got into the taxi, exchanging one last look with the man who had once made her believe she was worthless, and who now watched her leave with genuine respect. As the vehicle pulled away, Emma, always observant, commented, "He seemed sad." "He'll be fine," Eleanor replied, hugging her daughters. "And so will we." The taxi turned the corner, leaving behind not only loved ones, but an entire past of pain, struggle, and finally, redemption. Ahead, the airport, a transatlantic flight, and the next page of a story that Eleanor Vance had decided to write by her own rules. A story where she was not a victim, nor an avenger, nor even a survivor. She was simply the protagonist of her career, her dignity, and above all, her unbreakable heart. A word about abusive relationships: understanding, action, and hope. Abusive individuals often act in a calculated manner to emotionally manipulate their partners, making them dependent and vulnerable. They begin by creating a false sense of security, promising eternal love, and appearing attentive at the beginning of the relationship. However, little by little, they start to erode the woman's self-esteem with subtle criticisms that become more frequent and cruel. These abusers use control as their main weapon. They control clothing, friendships, money, and even the woman's thoughts, making her believe that she is incapable of making decisions for herself. Often, they make comments like, "You're lucky to have me. No one else would love you like this." These words are a strategy to isolate her and break her confidence until she feels she has no other option but to stay in the relationship. Violence can be verbal, emotional, physical, or a combination of all, but it always follows the same pattern. The abuser blames the woman for problems, minimizes her pain, and makes her feel guilty for wanting something better for herself. This manipulation is so subtle that often victims take a long time to realize they are trapped in a cycle of abuse. But it is important to remember, it is not the victim's fault. No woman deserves to be disrespected, minimized, or mistreated. All women deserve love, respect, and happiness. If you are in such a situation, remember that it is possible to leave, that there are people and organizations ready to help you. You are stronger than you think, and you deserve a life full of peace and love. Leaving an abusive relationship is difficult, but it is the first step to regaining your freedom and rebuilding your self-esteem. You are not alone. Seek support, trust your strength, and remember that a better life awaits you. A life where you will be loved and valued for who you are. If this story touched your heart, we invite you to explore more content on our channel. We have many more exciting and thought-provoking stories that, like this one, seek to inspire you and show you that there is always hope. Click on the next video and join us in another narration that will surely captivate you from the very first moment. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for being part of this community. We'll see you in the next video.